really been in my own mind since I was a kid. So I think a lot of things haven't really impacted me the way it impacts other people. I'm able to quickly like go off into a peaceful place, even in a stressful environment. I'm able to dismiss the chatter, dismiss the chaos, right? To a threshold, right? Until it gets to a point where it needs to be addressed. But it's a really great tool, especially for speaking in front of others in large groups. I would say it doesn't really work in one-on-one interpersonal communications, right? People are clearly off somewhere else right now. But it works well in large groups. All right, who's done? Who wants to get us started? All right. Let's do, I'm gonna let Mike come up here first. Mike, what do you want in the background? And neutral, right? Let's see how this one is.
Yes, the big 16.
So my name's Blake. So we're going to be talking about how Big Ten, with the new conference alignment, can be possibly affecting student athletes across all sports.
defended already.
I agree. Yeah, it's good. That might be one of my points in my speech. Thank you. So I'm Noah, and tonight I'm going to be talking about the polarization in politics in America today. Over the last, I'd say, like 40 years, our politics have become like incredibly polarized. Just in the fact that there's not really a way to find a middle ground anymore. And it causes like deep divisions between like big groups of people. Like our entire country is divided first off, but then there's also like if you go and tell someone like what your political opinion is, like it could make it so that they never want to talk to you again, and that's a bad sign of incredible polarization. So what polarization is like the divide in the political parties and like the gap in between them. So it's basically just saying that there's like such a wide gap in between the two political parties that are the main ones in our country that there's not really a middle ground that you can take. You kind of have to choose one or the other, or just be an outlier, which won't really help you do anything. And they're like the parties are like ideologically homogenous. Like basically, instead of everyone in their party like having different beliefs, but just like being in one group together, they all like align their ideas together so that they can like get stuff done. And like it's easier to be one party when everyone has the same beliefs in that party, which has ended up making it so that they are more polarizing. And the causes of it are like definitely nowadays it's the media. A lot of media, they will exaggerate and they will push like stories that make things seem really bad or really good in order to get the clicks that they want, because like it is a business there. And like that's the sad thing about media today is like a lot of them like aren't really doing it to get the real information out, they're just doing it to make money. So they're not gonna put the like accurate information, they're gonna put whatever they know is gonna make you click on the story. And that leads to people like staying in their cesspool of like only seeing one side of the story, which will obviously if you only see one thing and you're told this is what's right, this is the facts, like you're not going to change your opinions or beliefs. It creates like an echo chamber kind of where like everything you hear is the same thing, and you only hear that these other people are wrong. And so if those people try to tell you like, hey, like listen to my ideas, you're not going to listen because your whole like life you've been told no, they're wrong. So it's definitely not a good thing, and the consequences of it is like a lot of our government nowadays is just like arguing and fighting, and especially like the elections, that comes out really bad in that. It's just like basically it's not about what you believe anymore or like what you're gonna fight for. It's kind of just like how you can make the other person seem bad and make yourself seem like a little bit less bad than them. And it leads to like gridlock in our government to where like nothing gets done because our parties are so polarized that they like, in order to keep their followings, they can't work with the other side of the aisle. And so like if no one like works together, nothing gets done. And so it ends up just making it so that nothing gets done, and critical issues that need to be taken care of, like healthcare and climate change and immigration, they like remain unsolved just because no one can agree on one thing. And a lot of times it's just due to like, because that's what their party thinks they can do. And it also puts like a lot of social strain, like not only on the people in our government, but also like the common citizens of America, because even though like what we do doesn't have a lot of impact on like the entire country, in our day-to-day life, the people that we like talk to and engage with, if you talk politics with them, it's very likely that because of how polarized our system is, they will immediately like be turned off to anything you're saying and no longer want to like talk to you, be around you, just because of what you believe. And like that shouldn't be how it is. And that's an opinion. I shouldn't have said that. But it's hard party or another that everyone stops listening to you. And how can we like get rid of this? Encouraging like dialogue between the parties, so like just having them like talk to each other and like really is if you sit down with someone and you have a decent conversation, you're not gonna and you like actually listen to what they're saying, unless they're like some super far off, like terribly out of pocket person, like you're probably gonna be able to agree with at least some things that they say, and that will lead people to like start being like, hey, just because he's a Republican or just because he's a Democrat doesn't mean that like I can't listen or think the same things that he's thinking. And then also like definitely just like putting more like strict things on strict regulations on media about like what fake news and false information. I think that would also go greatly to help limit the polarization in our country. So yeah.
All right, human beings are tribal creatures. By our very nature and our design, we tend to align with people who are familiar with us in some way. It used to be really racial, right? But now we're sort of a little bit more diverse, so now we align more with people who share the same ideologies. So politics is really the new religion, I could say. What do you want to expect?
Quite as controversial as those last two. Is it Congress? No. That would be more controversial. All right, I'm Connor, and I'm going over today whether or not healthy is good for you. Whether coffee is healthy for you. Healthy is good for you. I'm going to say whether or not coffee is. Not say, but look at the two sides of it. Now, just off of a basis, coffee is rich in a lot of nutrients because they're made out of coffee beans, which are, wheat. And they have things including about 14% of your daily value of vitamin B2 and 12% of your B5 vitamin for the day. So it has nutrition. And now that is also based off of an 8-ounce cup of coffee, which sounds fine up until you think of what is probably the biggest coffee making place in the US and probably across the world today. You'd all say Starbucks, right? No, it's important. I'm not sure if it quite competes, but Starbucks has 6 sizes. They have demi, which is 3 ounces, and the next size up from that, which is the smallest, and that's that big, is short, which is 8 ounces, which isn't even commonly advertised as heavily as the ones above it, including tall at 12. A grande at 16, a venti at 20, and a trenta at 30 ounces. Now, if you think about that, coffee's supposed to be good. When you have like an 8-ounce cup, that gives you a decent set of nutrients. But that's 8 ounces of 1 cup of pure coffee. And that is no creamer, no sugar, no honey, no nothing. That is base coffee. And the problem with that is Starbucks, most of the girls go into Starbucks especially, and I say girls because, there's the little thing about why girls go to Starbucks, And so based off that, they don't get a short back. You're gonna at least get a grande. That's just what you get. It's enough for you, it makes you feel good. But you go off of that, a grande is already 2 servings. 2 servings, not even fully of coffee, but it's really more heavily creamers and additives and all of that stuff, which 1 teaspoon of sugar, according to the American Heart Association, is about, what is it? Yeah, coffee creamer, which you'd be putting into the coffee, especially in some place like Starbucks where it's heavily syrups, creamers, things like that. 1 tablespoon serving of creamer is 1 teaspoon of sugar. And 6 teaspoons of added sugar ferment, so it's about 6 tablespoons of creamer, is the daily value that's like a little bit on the high side, but you can get along with. Now think about that, with 1 tablespoon of creamer in a 16-ounce cup. That's nothing, especially compared to what they're tossing in. And so going off of that, for the very short, Starbucks coffee specifically isn't really good, which we all kind of know. But then you can go to some of the other benefits of normal coffee. That was just to kind of get Starbucks out of the way. That's kind of an outlier in a way. Because there's a lot of people that still get coffee at home. Coffee's heavy in caffeine. It's actually it's the biggest source of natural caffeine outside of taking an energy. But that's literally just putting caffeine into a bottle and putting some peach mango flavor. Other than that, you've got soft drinks, tea, and chocolate. They all have a little bit. But it's also, coffee's the biggest natural without doing a lot of stuff. And what caffeine has, or what caffeine does, is it is a stimulant, which if you haven't taken courses on stuff like that, it basically increases activity in your brain and releases other neurotransmitters, like dopamine. So it makes it kind of gives you that little kick. That's why you enjoy drinking a cup of coffee. Reduces tiredness and it can make you feel more alert. We all know that. You know about caffeine. You're supposed to drink that cup of coffee at 8 a.m. to give you that pick-me-up so you can go to work. And all of that can be good. However, that's in the short term. After prolonged use of caffeine, since people consider it like a drug in a way, it's like slightly addictive, and but it's not as addictive as a hardcore drug or something you find that could hurt you. But like those drugs, you build up a tolerance. So you start off with, a cup of coffee a day, that gets you enough caffeine, you feel great. But after a while, that 1 cup just really doesn't do it. So you get another. Then you build up a tolerance to that, then you get more, and you keep getting more, until coffee just doesn't affect you until you start adding stuff to it. And that's where it starts to get really unhealthy. Back to some good sides. There's a chance, based on some recent studies, that coffee can protect your brain from Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, which are 2 very nasty illnesses. I mean, a lot of people have family members or relatives, friends that have suffered with Alzheimer's, and it's a scary idea even of forgetting things. Parkinson's is the same way. It's the 2nd most common neurodegenerative disease, and it's caused by the death of dopamine-generating neurons in the brain. Coffee drinkers also have a lower risk of type 2 diabetes and a lower risk of liver diseases. Now, I wasn't able to look through all of the little neatness on that and what that has to do with it, but some other big upsides, especially today where some of this stuff is more prevalent. Coffee drinkers have a much lower risk of depression and suicide. I would say that's probably based off of the dopamine hits, but still, it is a statistic that nowadays where depression is much more commonplace and suicide happens more than we would want it to. Maybe it would be a good way to, kind of tone those numbers down. But I can't just keep going on about all the good sides of it. There are some downsides. Guys, there is many. Caffeine can cause anxiety and disrupt sleep. And the sleep one is really bad, especially with the generation of people that already have trouble going to sleep. With things like social media, I mean, as long as you keep your notifications on, you're going to hear your Snapchat going on until 2 a.m. And that's not me being, pointing out other people. I do it. Sometimes I hear that ding and I just can't help looking over, see who it is. And if I've already looked up to caffeine and coffee by extension does not help with that as it keeps you awake, it reduces tiredness. And if you're sensitive to caffeine and you get overstimulated, well, you can really get screwed over by it because you get a really big rush of it and then you have a really hard drug. Caffeine is addictive and missing a few cups can lead to a withdrawal. Now, caffeine withdrawal is much less dangerous than other withdrawals, but any way it goes, it sucks. You don't like going through it. I have probably a minor caffeine addiction. I'm not going to say I do or don't, but for numbers, that's the 7th cup today from that cup. Yeah, it's not good. On a good side of all this, where caffeine is kind of the bad side of coffee, decaf coffee is very well proven to also give you that dopamine hit based off of some parts of the coffee bean and other parts simply being the routine. Because there were some studies done basically having a placebo going with cups of coffee. So they had construction workers come in every morning and they'd grab a cup of coffee. And they started them off with caffeinated, and they'd come in and grab their cup of coffee. They felt rejuvenated right afterwards. They've been working an hour or two, they get their cup of coffee, they get up, they go back and do it, because now they're, energized again. And so after a while, they started swapping a couple of them out with decaf, just to see what the effects would be. And all of them reported the exact same feeling of re-energizing themselves. And that feeling of, oh, I just got my cup of coffee. And so a lot of the attributes keeping it in a good place are actually the routine of having a cup of coffee, which can be why a lot of people base their mornings around it. I wake up, I get a cup of coffee ready, drink it up, brush my teeth, I get ready. And so going off of that, you can decide for yourselves whether or not coffee is good for you or not.
I gotta have my coffee. First thing in the morning, I go to my drug dealer.
Bro, not me.
Come on, bro.
No.
I do. Caffeine is a drug. Just like cocaine or heroin. Right? It's the most addictive drug on planet Earth. How many people you know drink coffee versus how many people you know do crack cocaine and heroin? Right?
I'd say so, that's the stigma.
So I show up to my drug dealer every morning at Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. I'm real antsy. I'm like, hurry up, give me my drugs. I need it. Can't go without it. All right, who's next?
It's on the same topic.
As what?
It's Key Rich's coffee.
Okay, we'll do you last then.
Okay.
Who else? That's all okay. Yes. What do you want back on? Football what? But that's to do with the placebo phenomenon there, Connor, right? It goes to show you we are our beliefs, right? Belief is a very powerful thing. You become your beliefs.
Hi guys, I'm Jeremiah, and I'm here to tell you guys how to football injury, right? So a football injury, I did some thinking, some looking. A football
some injuries you just physically, the person may not be able to come back. But for the most part, we're saying an athlete who is competitive by nature, that seeks and loves competition in order to win and challenge himself, can also view this injury as another challenging competition to be beaten, versus other athletes give up. So maybe they want to cut out. Maybe they don't have that competitive spirit as much as we thought they did, right?
Yeah, I think it's more of like me, I gotta sit down. Once I have surgery, I gotta sit down for 6 to 9 months. I think that's what the mental part of it is. Like, you can't do what you want to do. You're restricted. You can't work out how you want to. You can't go out and be acting like you want to. Your body's going to adjust to being lazy. Well, not lazy, but not being able to do what you've been doing for a few months. You got to come back and try to get your body back in shape, your mind back to where it needs to be. Some athletes just isn't capable of doing that for so long.
Yeah. It's interesting for your athletes. Think about it. You say, hey, you know what? Here's a guy, basketball player, football player, that is physically gifted. Let's say a Derrick Rose. Right? But we say an unintelligent use of your physical body. Right? The way you land and how you drive it. Like, hey, you're not going to last that long playing the sport, right? Versus like a LeBron James that says, hey, you know what? As I get older, I can evolve and adapt even my own style of play so that I can be resilient and last 20 years in the league, right? your opinion, since you're done, what would you take if you were the owner, general manager of the team? Would you take great strategy, meaning coaching staff and things like that, with mediocre talent? Or would you take exceptional talent with poor strategy, mediocre strategy? Like mediocre coaches and these guys?
I think the, really good coaching with the mediocre talent, because with mediocre talent, if you're coached well, you can be coached great, if you're disciplined well. And it's really like football, so if you're disciplined enough to do your steps and do your job on your side of the field, you'll be successful. As long as all of the guys are doing their job and not worrying about the guy next to them, not worrying about what they have to do, you'll be successful.
Where do the Bears fall?
I'm glad they fired.
Well, they just fired, yeah, so.
Yeah, mid-season.
I'm glad they fired.
Mid-season is a little crazy.
That's kind of bad. I think they should have waited.
No,
I think they should have
He's
just.
been eating too much last.
Honestly, I would say I'm okay with it.
Instead of get the next guy.
Me personally, I would have
The season's kind of a wash, I think, right? You should just kind of let it
Like, I
go.
understand, like.
Well, no, they'll take it as a wash, they'll take next man up, and next season we'll get somebody good.
But like, that's crazy.
Yeah. All right, great. Anyone over here? Go next.
I mean, we got the,
Augie's gonna go next. What do you want as a background, Augie?
I got a YouTube video actually. A YouTube video.
Oh, okay, cool.
Alright, so I'm Augie, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about Scientology from kind of a neutral, informative point of view. Start out with a video by CNN.
Scientology is probably the most successful new American religion of the last 100 years, and it is spread through every corner of the world. The 1950s were a time of enormous anxiety for Americans. We were talking about space travel and alien worlds. We were starting to get to know how the mind works for the very first time. All of these things fed into Hubbard's imagination as he began to create Scientology as a religious movement. Here are 3 things that Scientologists believe. Number 1, that we are all eternal souls trapped within bodies, and that we've had multiple bodies over many, many lifetimes. Number 2, in each of these lifetimes, we have gathered trauma, whether we're aware of it or not. And number 3, the way to get rid of these traumas, to clear yourself of them, is through the process called auditing, a kind of technological exposure therapy.
What is it that you have your attention on a lot?
Through a series of courses and auditings, you become more and more aware of your true nature. You have more and more control over yourself and your world until you reach a kind of godlike status. People who are familiar with Scientology are mostly familiar with the scandals, the control that the leaders of Scientology have over the lives of many of its members. Scientology is at a crossroads in its history. If the church can learn to give up some of that control, and 100 years from now, it might be one of the great religions of the world.
Alright, so let's just kind of reiterate some of those points. As humans, we're like trapped in this physical world, basically, according to their views, by negative experiences known as engrams. And to get rid of them, we have to do this thing called auditing, which is kind of to detect the trauma and get rid of it using what's called an e-meter. And then once they do this, they can achieve a state of enlightenment called being clear.
No, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they got like security on them.
Yeah.
Why? How was he gonna start the
Very private.
They do it to a very certain demographic. It's very easily influenced.
Science, ooh, we should have somebody do one on Catholicism, that would, as a Roman Catholic. There we are. Who's next? Alright. What do you want as background? Ooh, cow raising, raising cows? Bacon and burgers.
That's great.
Hello class, my name is Victoria Hamilton, and today I'm going to be analyzing the topic about the Texas recognition system. I don't think I was truly aware of how unique certain aspects of it were until coming to college and learning more of the particular laws from there. Each state is responsible for creating their own unique curriculum, and that's exactly what Texas did. While the core subjects like math, reading, social studies, and science, as well as most of the extracurriculars, are mostly the same as anywhere else, there are a few things that stick out. I knew of multiple schools that offered line dancing, horseback riding, and cattle raising as electives, although I did not personally participate. While I know many other states share this trait as well, Texas prioritizes their football programs like no other. The stadium for the three high schools in my town to play their games at, so this is like the stadium entirely separate from the one also at the school. We have the outdoor stadium, and the indoor field, and then the indoor field as well for the practice on when it's too hot out, and then the whole separate one for the really excessive in my opinion. But, that was $17 million, which is a lot of money. The most expensive high school stadium in Texas is actually $80 million, which is insane to me, considering our nets were held like that at certain points. Another thing that makes our education curriculum especially unique is the required learning of Texas history. For the entirety of 7th grade, we had to take a class specifically on Texas history, and then we're tested on it again in 8th grade for STAR testing, which was the state of Texas assessment of academic excellence. While I'm sure there are a ton of cool other things, the last unique factor I wanted to mention was the Texas State Pledge. I'm sure everyone remembers reciting the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, probably after listening to morning announcements. But in the state of Texas, immediately preceding the Pledge of Allegiance, we would recite our Texas State Pledge every morning for 13 years. So to end this speech, I'll share it with you all. It goes like this. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one country.
Right, Texas used to be its own nation, right, just like California, the Republic of California, the Republic of Texas. Okay, who's next? Hey, what do you want as a background? Does that work?
hard to communicate face to face, but as soon as you're on the phone, we say everything understood. Like for example, let's say if B thought a girl was cute, instead of going up over to her and talking, he's just gonna find her on Instagram or something, and then follow her, and then DM her instead of going up to her and talking to her. And then, I feel like that's like real for a lot of stuff. And then like, I feel like it's just hard for people like even like just debate anything like face to face. It's all the same social media. It's arguing on social media instead of like doing everything face to face. Really, social media is ruining just what life used to be like back when you were younger. Like that there's a lot more talking to everybody and like it just felt more like a society than it does now.
Back in 1800s, we were gonna say, right?
Whoa.
Hey, it was an interesting time. When I was like, let's say late grammar school, there were no cell phones. Like people would still go to the payphone out on the street. You would just go to your friend's house and knock on the door. You would like scream up to the window, right? People had like pagers, like beepers and stuff, right? But it actually felt so much better in some way I actually can't really describe. Like you felt really alive. Like you felt in tune with everybody. Now it's like ever since like the smartphone, I don't know, I just feel like something's really died in terms of how we interact or how connected we are. It almost feels like there's a big wall up in terms of our connections with people. Because the other part too, right? You're like, hey, the internet is bad because it's too easy. Right? Anything too easy is usually bad. Right? All things in moderation. It's too easy to cheat on your partner, right? So lack of trust. It's too easy to get into trouble. It's too easy to just do anything, which makes us all just kind of really lazy, right? In some way. Relationships, communications, all sorts of things too, right? So all things in moderation, right? Okay, who's next? Right? Mike? Yeah. High school hallway or something? Yeah, that's cool. Man, I miss high school, man. That was like best.
Okay, bro.
That was like the best release of my life.
Yeah, that's good.
No, I paid somebody to go show up for me.
Alright, last week we want to talk about life after high school, more from like a personal standpoint, like how I've seen it. I just meet because of my friends and people I've been around. Me personally, obviously sports is probably just about personally 80% of the reason why I'm in college. Because not saying I hate school in terms of like going to class and stuff, obviously I don't love it, but the motivation to get good grades or to go to my classes strictly comes from sports for the most part. I care about my grades, but it wouldn't be nowhere near as close like I got baseball wise. But obviously, and I would say, I have a friend, his name's Max, smarter than me. Been smart since elementary school, but schoolers don't mess with him at all. Elementary school, junior high, he was fine. High school, he was there maybe like a day a week. Maybe 2 days a week. But he's now currently making bread day trade, like bread
his best friends is making even more bread, like billions day trading. Both of them were college. There's people like my brother who he did 2 years, freshman sophomore year, but he had to go back home because of money. But now he's working. He touches some money way better than way more than what he took while he was in school. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes no more school and starts working. He's bartending, and that's his job. Like that's what he wants to do. Like he wants to go to a mythology course and wants to travel, be a bartender or whatever. He's super social. And in an aspect of social, school is great for him because he's around people 24/7 and he's able to just gab and make new friends every day, all day. But in terms of going away from school, living on your own, I don't think he's quite ready for that. And I feel like staying home and making bread is where he can end up driving, push himself forward in life later on. And I don't know, I think the whole college where you go is obviously very false, obviously in today's world. Like most people are getting more money out of not going to school that hard to an extent. So
So school versus no school, right? I still think that college is extremely valuable and important in a few ways, right? Think about it. One, it does matter on what you're going to major in. Right? It matters what you're going to major in. Some people major in professional studies. Professional means you, even after you finish the school, you get a license on right? Right? A medical doctor, a lawyer, a psychologist, right? All sorts of professional studies. That's required. You actually need school. But I think college, the way most people view it, they think college is going to make them financially successful in some way. They come into college thinking that. But really, college is about the last time in your life that you will be surrounded with such a huge network of like-minded people who are trying to be more intelligent, love learning, right? So it's really about your network in college, as opposed even more so than the classes and everything else. Typically, you only retain about 3% of everything you learn in college because you're not interested in other 27%, right? But the point is, an ingenious college student will say this: wow, there's a few thousand people here who are smarter than me in many different fields. I wonder if I can get them together, just random people in different majors and fields, and we start a business that can be highly successful while we're in college, right? Free labor, not going out and getting all these people who require $50,000, $100,000 a year. This is the last hope to be the Zuckerberg or Bill Gates in college, right? So really use the opportunity to say, hey, I just want my degree. Because 4 years is a long time to just say you just want a degree. Like, what are you doing in 4 years? You should be entrepreneurial with other people in school and say, hey, maybe we can start a business that can make $100 million, right? We assemble a team of 20 very smart people. You're doing the work for the other classes anyway. You're doing presentations and group projects on businesses. Like, what is that all for? Make it a real thing, right? Yeah. I did an ethical thing during getting my MBA, which is I never bought the textbook, right? For 2 years, I did not buy a textbook, but I knew somebody at a lot of the publishing houses who was able to get me e-books, physical books for little to nothing, almost free. I would cut them in on it. And I sold all the textbooks to all the students for 2 years straight. And I made somewhere between $20,000 $20,000, $30,000 just a year. Right, and then one of my professors found out, right? And he was like, you know, Mr. Ross, this is highly unethical, highly yada, yada, yada. And I would say, no, we're here for business, right? This is business to be a shark. You can question ethics. At the end of the day, don't matter. What matters is the results. The only thing that matters is the results, right? If we're there to make money and I made money, there should be no criticism, right? I knew how to get it, and other people didn't. That's just how it was. So now think about it. Hey, you guys are what? Fresh? Who's a sophomore? One sophomore, two. Who's a junior? One junior. Who's a senior? This is it. I'm telling you. Yeah, make any kind, do something that'll work, right? Get everybody from different fields with different sort of interests and drives. Get somebody from accounting and finance and sports management and all that stuff. Just come up with something. And you can get out of here before you graduate. Right? Forget the degree. You know, we just make it. All right.
I think I'm the guy that said that he's right, bro.
Yeah.
Today I'm talking about obesity. Oh, it's so funny now. Okay, let's see. Obesity is a complex disease involving having too much body fat. Health problems it can cause the body is heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, liver disease, and sleep apnea, and certain cancers. And then to tell you're overweight, you go to the body mass index, and then you calculate your BM by multiplying weight in pounds by 703, divide the height in inches, and then divide again by height in inches, or divide weight in kilograms by height in meters squared. But you don't really got to do that. It's a website. You find it. Okay, the genetics. Okay, the genes you inherit from your parents can determine your susceptibility to gaining weight. About 40% of children that are overweight will continue to be heavy during the teenage years, and 75% to 80% of teenagers that are overweight will stay like this until adulthood. Studies show that women who gain excess weight during pregnancies are more likely to be are most likely to have bigger periods than those who gain a little weight. No, childhood. Children born via C-section can be more prone to obesity later in life. Forming health dietary and exercise habits during childhood may be the most valuable prevention against obesity and lifestyle relatively related diseases. This is also true of formula-fed infants who tend to be heavier than breastfed babies. Medication. Weight gain is a common side effect that can be found in a lot of medicine like diabetes, antidepressant, and antipsychotics. These drugs may increase your appetite and reduce your metabolism, or even alter your body's ability to burn fat, increasing your rate of fat storage. Hormones. Hunger is controlled by very powerful hormones and brain chemicals in the areas of your brain that are responsible for cravings and rewards. These hormones function improperly in many people with obesity, which alters their eating behavior and can cause a psychology to be physiologically drive to eat more to beat this hunger. The brain has a reward center which starts secreting dopamine and other feel-good chemicals when you eat. Nutrient. Despite their personal nutrients, children and adults are generally not taught how to eat properly. Teaching children the importance of healthy diet and proper nutrition has been shown to help them make better choices later in life. Nutrients education is very important, especially when forming the dietary and lifestyle habits that you bring into the dorm. Right, I got information on you.
obesity are often seen as lacking willpower. And since it became clear that being overweight is a big COVID-19 risk factor, there have been lots of calls for everyone to lose a bit of weight. But is it that easy? Is obesity a choice? In short, no. The picture is much more complex than we tend to think. Studies show that between 50 and 70% of our body weight is down to our genes. To put that into context, about 80 to 90% of our height is down to genetics, and we wouldn't say that someone is tall because of what they eat. It's the result of hundreds of different genes, each contributing in a small way. Some might affect how hungry you feel, for example by tweaking the sensitivity to the hormones that make you feel full. Another might limit the reward hormones that are released when you eat, meaning you need to eat more to feel satisfied. Experiments in animals have also shown that being overweight causes physiological changes that can compound these effects. And losing weight causes brain circuits to drive behavior and metabolic changes to actively keep weight high. So does that mean that people with obesity are stuck and there's no point in exercising or changing our diets? No, but we should think about weight in a different way. It's about health, not aesthetics, and weight management is not the same for everyone. The 5% loss of body weight might not have a huge effect on what you see in the mirror, but can have significant health benefits. For example, in women, it can reduce the risk of developing breast cancer by 12%. It can also reduce blood pressure by the same amount as some antihypertensive medications. The motivation to lose a little weight for better health outcomes might be easier to sustain than those demoralizing goals based on your trouser size. The science tells us that diet and exercise will only lead to modest weight loss for most, so the government can't just rely on a message of exercising more. Complex problems need nuanced solutions, and ultimately, changing the environment we're surrounded by is just as important. Thanks for watching. Follow the Physiological Society for more videos like this.
Oh, why are they texting me back? Are they mad?
Okay, who's next?
Oh, wait, any question? Any question?
Now you're the next. What do you want us back?
Okay, so feminism. What is feminism? Feminism is a social/political/economic movement that advocates for gender equality and the end of sexism and oppression. The first wave of the feminist movement is usually tied to the first formal women's rights convention, which was held in 1848, then eventually peaked in the early 1960s. Women were then finally socially free to have the opportunities to work, go to school, learn whatever they wanted. Where they always had to submit to their husbands and had no legal powers. The arranged husbands, in many instances, had all the control measures. And the woman, if she did not comply, and now I would like to talk about feminism today. How has the feminist movement changed? Now I see that there is a great push for victimhood for females, that they're all oppressed, rather than empowerment that women actually do have power. Now there are more protests and so many women, including men, advocate for women's rights while diminishing their own male rights. Now whenever men try and push for their own rights, they're called misogynistic or anti-feminist. Yet all they wanted to do is voice out their own opinions, like the women do. So I would like everyone to think about any law that gives more power to a man than a woman. There don't have to be drafted for war and sacrifice their land for the country. Or even women have more advantages in the court system, whether it's parental rights or divorce settlements. In many cases, even men losing all their profits, like houses, economic status. Yet no one really talks about the problems about men's rights. It's always about women, that they're always oppressed. Yet, if you don't have like the same wage as a man at the workplace, things you can do that. It's all about laws. One of the biggest issues of feminist ideologies and protests is for reproductive rights, abortion, if you will. For many, females get raped, supposedly. Yet no one really talks about actual facts, such as that abortion from rape is about 1% or less. There's so much about this discussion that could be brought up and debated, sure. However, perhaps the middle ground is that there is no equality, and there never will be, because women and men are and forever will be
Great analysis, very neutral, on both sides. Who do we have left? Who's left? What about over here? You still working? You didn't go yet? Oh, we want me to cut tea? Sure.
This is our last one.
We're gonna go.
John can go.
We're gonna go to.
John used to cook.
What happened? We able to refer to more here?
We're gonna go to 9 here.
We all have to go.
That was a very good speech. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Adam Lambert. Today I'm talking about kind of the neutral debate, or the neutral side, of coffee versus tea. So today, there's like a huge debate about coffee versus tea. These two drinks have kind of been in everybody's lives for as long as we know. They've been like around for centuries, and they've been enjoyed by billions of people. More often, Americans like coffee more, and then literally the rest of the world likes tea more. It's just based on personal preference. But let's explore both sides. So, coffee is known for its like kind of more bold, heavy flavor compared to tea, which is much more calm or soothing, you could say. Nobody ever really drinks coffee when they're sick. It's more of a pick-me-up, something to get them quick and get going. Where tea, more often here, is more soothing, more sensual. People can normally drink tea later at night to make them feel calmer, more soothing, have them ready to go to bed. Where coffee, on the complete other hand, is a morning drink to help people kind of get going, get something there. Coffee is often linked to productivity, while tea is kind of more ceremonious for a lot of cultures, especially in Asian culture. Coffee goes from an Italian espresso to something plain like a cup of Joe in America, and tea is enjoyed from Britain to China, like the Far East. It's enjoyed everywhere. When it comes to health, they both have their pros and cons. Coffee is rich in antioxidants, like was mentioned, improves focus. But however, it could upset your stomach if you drink too much of it, or if you drink it too late, it could upset your sleep timing, sleep rhythm. While tea is often more gentle on the body, has calming effects physically and mentally, but it might not give like a kind of energy boost that coffee does. On the social side, both tea and coffee are kind of enjoyed in a social setting. Like I said, more east, it's enjoyed the same way we drink coffee here. Let's go get tea, let's go get coffee. More in the U.S., it's more let's go get the coffee and they talk over coffee. In the end, the debate is not just about coffee and people like the buzz of coffee, some people like the buzz of tea. So, thank you.
Whether you more tea or more coffee?
I am very neutral because I'm growing up on tea, but I enjoy coffee.
You should do that chocolate.
Like other hot drinks. It's so hot. It's stupid hot.
Who's left? You ready? You're almost done. So what we'll do is wrap up your two, and then we'll save the other impromptus for our last class.
I'm not.
So as a child, well, I'll start it like this. Every year as you get older, you tend to sleep less and less. Like as a child, they expect a child to get like around between 10 and 12 hours of sleep when you're born, and then age 2, like that'll go to 9 to 10 hours, and then they'll take away nap time, and you'll want to get 8 to 9 hours, and then when you hit high school, your sleep goes between, you're lucky to get 8 hours of sleep. And then there's the gender role into it, because studies say that you should get an average of 7 hours of sleep a night. And I personally try to get 9 hours. Other people, there's some people I've talked to that get 5 hours of sleep, or they get 6 hours of sleep on a daily basis until they finally crash. It's basically been, I feel like it's not talked about enough, but it's basically with our daily challenges in school, sports, homework, assignments, that most humans don't make time for sleep because they choose to play video games to wind down instead of sleeping or watch a TV show, when you should really just be regenerating. Like, when you're sick, you should be probably sleeping, but some people, when you're probably sick, you'll probably watch a movie or play video games. Like, you're still lying in bed, but you're not fully recovering because your body isn't sleeping. Like, I did that today. I kind of was feeling sleepy when I was using my phone. But sleep is a really important thing, and a lot of people get wasted, or they just decide to not prioritize it until they finally crash. And I find it very fascinating that I realize more male can live, or well, guys can live off of less sleep than girls. Like, I'll talk to like guy friends or teammates, and they get like 5 hours of sleep or 6 hours of sleep. They're playing video games or something, and they're just all like energized. But they can just
from individuals to corporations should pay their fair share. And fair taxes build trust in the government. So for non-rich individuals, taxes feel more disproportionate because a larger percentage of their income goes towards necessities like housing, clothing, food, healthcare, like all that kind of stuff. Even like modest tax rates can like significantly impact financial stability. For example, like sales tax, payroll taxes, like it applies equally to everyone. For wealthier individuals, the tax system often allows more opportunities to reduce taxes. So like loopholes, like investments, which makes up a significant portion of wealthy individual earnings, and their tax lower rates than regular wages. So this means that like rich people may pay more in absolute dollars, but they often pay a smaller percentage of their total wealth and income, which leads to accusation of unfairness. So while they make more money and they pay more taxes, like on paper, technically they're paying less rates than the non-rich, which should be right. So I think we should just work together to create a tax system that's built on fairness and opportunities for all.
Excellent. Don't forget the invisible tax. You know the invisible tax is, right? It's called inflation. Right? So the government uses monetary policies to make the dollar real cheap, make things rise in cost, and things are more expensive, but you gotta pay for it, the taxes are more expensive, right? So they kind of use inflation to get more money from you. Now, they do that without legislation. All right, that's it. We got 3 more prompt tunes on Wednesday. I want everyone here next Wednesday. I don't want